The accident. The great hall of the alien palace was silent. Hundreds of glowing banners hung from the tall crystal walls, each one shining with strange symbols that no human could understand. The air smelled sharp, like metal and fire, and every step echoed across the floor as the human delegation walked forward. Among them was Daniel Hayes, a young man who never wanted to be here. He was only a technician, a helper, not a diplomat. Yet somehow, he had been chosen to stand with the officers on this dangerous mission. At the far end of the hall, sitting on a throne of black stone, was Princess Vera. Her eyes burned like molten gold. Her skin shimmered with faint light, and her voice, when she finally spoke, sounded both beautiful and terrifying. "You stand before the crown of the Zareth Empire," she said. "Choose your words carefully, humans." The human captain bowed deeply, sweat on his forehead. "We come in peace, Princess Vera. We only wish for trade and friendship." The hall remained quiet. The alien guards watched with unblinking eyes, tall and armored. Their long spears glowed faintly, ready to strike at the smallest mistake. Daniel swallowed hard. His hands shook. He told himself not to move, not to speak. He was nothing here, only background. He only needed to stay invisible until the meeting ended. But fate had other plans. When the princess asked for the ceremonial gift, the humans presented a small box made of silver. Inside was a crystal from Earth, glowing with blue light. It was supposed to be a sign of respect. Daniel was the one carrying it. His job was simple. Walk forward, open the box, and bow. He really tried, but the box slipped in his hands. It fell, hit the ground, and the precious crystal rolled across the floor with a sharp crack, a sound that seemed to echo louder than thunder in the silent hall. Gasps filled the chamber. The alien guards stepped forward at once, spears raised. The captain shouted Daniel's name in horror. Daniel's face went pale. He bent quickly, trying to pick up the crystal. I am sorry," he whispered. But then he made it worse. When he bent, he didn't realize that in Zareth culture, lowering your head like that, without permission, was considered mockery. To them, it was as if he had bowed in fake respect, like an insult. The hall shook with angry voices. The alien nobles hissed, their glowing eyes narrowing. Princess Vera rose from her throne, her golden eyes locked on Daniel. Her voice cut through the noise like a blade. "Human," she said, her tone sharp and cold. "Do you dare insult the blood of Zareth in my own hall?" Daniel froze, his heart pounded. "And no, princess, I did not mean." "Silence," she roared. The sound carried like thunder. The air itself seemed to tremble. The guards pointed their spears at Daniel's chest. One wrong word, one wrong breath, and they would strike. The human captain tried to step forward. "Please, it was a mistake. He did not." But the princess raised her hand. The entire hall went quiet again. Her eyes never left Daniel's face. "In my world, such an insult has only two answers," she said slowly. "Blood or marriage." Daniel's breath caught in his throat. He did not understand. Did she mean he must fight her? Did she mean execution? The princess stepped closer. Her golden eyes glowed brighter as she stared at him. "You have angered me before my people. To let this go would make me weak, but tradition gives you one chance." The humans behind Daniel whispered in fear. Marriage? What did that mean here? Was it a bond, a chain of punishment? Daniel tried to speak, but his voice cracked. "Princess, I meant no harm. It was an accident." Her lips curved into something that looked like a smile, but it was not warm. It was sharp, dangerous, like a predator amused with its prey. "Then prove it," she said. "Prove your respect with your life, or become mine forever." The hall erupted into gasps and shouts. The alien nobles shouted in disbelief. The human officers looked terrified. Daniel's mind raced. His stomach twisted. He felt trapped. If he refused, they would kill him. If he agreed, he would be bound to this alien princess, a stranger, an enemy. And yet, her eyes burned into his, daring him, challenging him. For the first time, Daniel realized he was not standing in just another meeting. He was standing on the edge of war. A single word from him could decide the fate of Earth. The silence was heavy. Everyone waited for his answer. Daniel's throat was dry. His hands shook, his heart told him to run, but there was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The princess took one more step, standing so close that Daniel could feel the heat radiating from her body. Her voice was low, but every word was clear. "Blood or marriage, human," she whispered. "Choose now." And the entire galaxy seemed to hold its breath, waiting for Daniel's choice. The impossible choice. The hall remained frozen in silence. Daniel stood at the center, his chest tight, his palms sweating, his mind spun like broken machinery, trying to make sense of the words he had just heard. Blood or marriage. No one moved. No one dared breathe too loud. Even the alien guards, their spears glowing with sharp light, seemed to pause, waiting. The human captain tried to step forward again. "Princess Vera, please. He is only a technician. He does not understand your ways." But her eyes never left Daniel. Her voice cut through the hall like cold steel. "Understanding is no shield. The insult was made before my throne, before my people. The law is older than your world itself. Blood or marriage." Daniel's stomach twisted. His throat was dry. He wanted to shout that it was unfair, that it was a mistake, but something in her gaze told him the truth. Excuses would not save him. The alien nobles whispered from their high seats, their voices sharp like knives. "Kill the human," one hissed. "He mocks our crown," another growled. "A human cannot touch the royal blood," a third sneered. The words burned in Daniel's ears. He felt smaller and smaller under their stares, a single fragile man surrounded by a sea of enemies. But then another voice spoke, softer, quieter, and it came from within him. "If you choose blood, you die here, now. In this hall, you never see Earth again, you never see the stars again." Daniel's knees trembled, but he forced himself to stay upright. The princess's steps echoed as she circled him slowly, like a predator testing prey. Her golden eyes glowed brighter. Her tone was cruel. But underneath it, there was something else, curiosity. "You are afraid," she said, almost as if amused. "Good. Fear is honest, but fear does not decide. You must speak, human." Daniel's heart pounded. Marriage, what did that mean in this empire? Was it a bond of love or a chain of slavery? Would he be locked in a gilded cage, never free again? Or worse, was marriage to her a kind of ritual sacrifice? He remembered the whispers from the ship before they landed, rumors that Zareth marriages bound souls, that refusing the bond could break your mind. His breath caught. He wanted to say no, he wanted to run, but behind him he felt the weight of his own people watching, his captain, the officers, even the guards. They all stared at him with desperate eyes. If he refused, word could break out. If he accepted, he would not only be tied to the princess, but to her empire forever. Daniel realized with a shiver. This was not just about him. This was about Earth itself. The princess finally stopped, standing in front of him again, her face close enough that he could see faint lines of glowing veins under her skin. Her voice dropped to a whisper, but the whole hall heard it. "Blood or marriage," she repeated. "Your world trembles on your answer." Daniel's lips parted, his voice shook. I cannot fight you." The hall gasped, some shouted in anger, others in shock. The princess's smile returned, sharp and dangerous. "Then you choose marriage?" she pressed. Daniel hesitated, his chest felt like stone. He wanted to deny it. He wanted to scream that this was madness, but deep inside he knew there was no way out. Slowly he nodded. "Yes," he whispered. "If that is the only way, I choose marriage." The hall exploded with noise. Alien nobles shouted, their voices rising in outrage. Guards slammed their spears on the ground. Sparks lit the air like fireflies. "Unthinkable," one shouted. "A human cannot bind with the crown." Another roared. "This will curse us all." But the princess raised her hand. The hall went silent again. Her golden eyes glowed as she stared at Daniel with something new in her gaze. Not just anger, but interest, curiosity, maybe even challenge. "So be it," she said firmly. Her voice carried like thunder. "Before the throne, before the empire, the human has chosen." Daniel's knees almost gave out. He could hardly believe the words leaving his own mouth, but it was done. He had chosen. The princess turned toward her court. Prepare the rites. The human will face the trials. If he survives, he will be mine. If he fails, his blood will pay. The crowd erupted again, but Daniel's ears rang. Trials? What did that mean? He looked at the captain, whose face was pale and horrified. The man shook his head slightly, as if to say you don't know what you've agreed to. Daniel's stomach sank. His choice was made, but the nightmare was only beginning. The guards stepped forward, surrounding him. Their spears glowed brighter, guiding him toward the side doors of the hall. As they walked, Daniel's thoughts spun. He had chosen marriage, yes, but already he felt like he had fallen into a trap with no escape. Behind him, Princess Vera's voice rang out one last time, calm but heavy with promise. Let the galaxy witness. A human has dared to bind himself to the crown of Zareth. He will face the tests of worthiness, and if he fails, his world will burn with him. The doors slammed shut behind him, and Daniel knew his impossible choice had only opened the door to something far more dangerous. The princess's secret. The corridors of the alien palace were narrow and endless. Daniel walked between guards whose glowing armor pulsed like beating hearts. Their spears stayed close to his back, pushing him forward. Each step echoed like a drumbeat of doom. He had chosen marriage, but the meaning of that word here was still a shadow to him. All he knew was the princess had promised trials, and if he failed, he would not only die. Earth itself might suffer. At last, the guard stopped before a tall door carved with strange symbols. The air shimmered as if alive. A guard touched the wall, and the stone door slid open with a hiss. Inside, Daniel expected a prison cell or a chamber of torture, but instead he found something else: silence. The room was round, filled with dim blue light. The walls were covered in flowing patterns that seemed to move like water. In the center stood Princess Vera herself, alone. Daniel froze, his heart leapt. He had thought she would wait in her throne room surrounded by her people. Instead, here she was waiting for him in private. Close the doors, she ordered the guards. Her voice was sharp, they obeyed, and the heavy stones sealed shut. Now it was only the two of them. Daniel's breath grew uneven, his voice cracked. Princess, what do you want from me? Her golden eyes studied him, long and quiet. Then to his shock she sighed. Her tone changed, softer than before. I want you to survive. Daniel blinked, certain he had misheard. Survive? You just threatened me with blood and death in front of your court. Vera's lips curved into a faint smile, but it was not cruel this time. It was tired, almost human. You don't understand, do you? You think this was only anger, only punishment, but it was more. The nobles were watching, the generals were waiting for me to kill you. If I had let your insult pass, they would call me weak, they would challenge me, I would lose the throne. Daniel's chest tightened. So, you put me in the middle to save your power? Her gaze hardened. Not just power, my life. In this empire, weakness is death. I gave you a choice that allowed me to live, marriage or blood. You chose the one that gave both of us a chance. Daniel's head spun. The image of her from the throne room, the fierce, untouchable princess, shattered for a moment. Underneath, he saw someone trapped, someone forced to wear armor heavier than steel. Still, he shook his head. I don't belong here, princess. I don't even know your customs. I don't know your people. How can I survive trials that even your own fear? Vera stepped closer. Her golden eyes glowed faintly in the dim room. That is your advantage, human. You do not know our rules, so you are not bound by them. You may succeed where others fail. Daniel almost laughed, but it came out hollow, or I may die faster. For the first time, the princess's expression softened. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Perhaps, but listen, Daniel Hayes, you are not here only for yourself. My empire will not stop at you if you fall. Earth will fall too. The nobles will see weakness. They will demand war. Your people will burn. Do you understand now? Daniel's throat closed. Her words hit harder than any threat. This wasn't just about him. This was about every city, every child back home. If he failed, the galaxy would turn against Earth. His hands shook, his mind screamed that this was impossible, yet his heart whispered another truth. He had no choice but to try. Vera's gaze lingered on him. She leaned closer, and for a moment, her voice lost all the steel. "I don't want you to die, Daniel," she whispered, "because if you do, they will make me the one to end your world." Daniel stared at her, stunned. He realized then that the princess was not only dangerous, she was also chained by her own people. She was both his captor and, strangely, his only chance at survival. Before he could speak, the stone doors opened again, the guards stepped inside, their leader bowed. "Princess, the trials are ready." Vera straightened, her golden mask of cold royalty snapping back into place. "Good," she said sharply. Her voice was once again a blade. "Take him." Daniel's heart pounded as the guards grabbed his arms. Leading him away, he looked back one last time, and in that single glance, he saw it. The secret she was hiding. Princess Vera was not his enemy. Not truly. She was trapped in her own cage of power, and now, somehow, their fates were tied together. The guards dragged him toward the unknown, toward the trials. His legs trembled, but inside, a spark of something new burned. Fear, yes, but also determination. Because now Daniel knew one thing. If he wanted to live, if he wanted Earth to survive, he had to uncover every secret of the alien princess, even the one she did not want him to see. And that secret might be the only way out of this nightmare. The Chamber of Trials was not what Daniel expected. He thought of arenas with weapons, creatures, maybe duels, but the first trial was nothing like that. The room was vast and circular, its walls glowing with living symbols that shifted like snakes under the skin of the stone. Strange energy hummed in the air. Every breath felt heavier, like breathing water instead of air. The guards shoved Daniel inside and sealed the door behind him. Princess Vera stood high above on a balcony, her golden eyes sharp as blades. "This is the first trial," her voice rang out. "It is called the Veil of Truth. No weapon will save you here. Only your mind." Daniel frowned, confused. "My mind?" The walls suddenly flared. Light spilled across the floor. In an instant the room changed. The floor was gone. He stood instead on a thin bridge of stone floating in endless darkness. Wind howled. Shadows moved below, whispering in voices that made his skin crawl. Then the voices changed. "Daniel," they whispered, sounding like his mother, his father, his friends back on Earth. "You have failed us. You will bring war. You are weak." Daniel staggered. He clutched his ears. "No, stop. This isn't real." The bridge trembled. Pieces cracked and fell into the abyss. His heart thundered in his chest. Vera's voice floated down, calm and merciless. "The veil of truth shows your deepest fears. If you give in, the bridge will break and you will fall." Daniel's body shook. The voices grew louder, accusing, blaming, dragging him down. He wanted to collapse, to give up, but then another voice rose inside him. "If you fall, Earth falls with you." Daniel clenched his fists. "No," he whispered, then shouted louder, "No, I won't fail them. I won't fail my people." The voices screamed, but Daniel took a step forward, then another. His legs wobbled, but he forced them to move. Every step was a battle, but slowly he crossed the bridge, and with the final step, the darkness shattered, the chamber returned, the floor was solid stone again. Daniel collapsed to his knees, drenched in sweat. His chest heaved, but he was alive. High above, Vera watched silently, her eyes unreadable. Then, after a long pause, she gave the smallest nod. "The human passes the first trial," she declared. The nobles who stood in the shadows hissed with displeasure. One shouted, "Trickery!" The trial was too simple. Vera's golden eyes flashed. "Would you like to face the veil yourself, Lord Kale?" she asked coldly. The noble fell silent. But Daniel was not finished. 2 more trials came. The second was the trial of beasts. The guards led Daniel into a pit filled with glowing sand. Gates opened, and a creature slithered out. Massive, with 6 legs, its body covered in scales that shimmered like glass. Its jaws dripped with venom that hissed as it touched the ground. Daniel's heart nearly stopped. He had no weapons, only his bare hands. The beast roared, rushing toward him. Daniel dove to the side, sand spraying around him. He scrambled, searching desperately for anything he could use. His hands found a shard of broken stone half buried in the sand. He gripped it tight. The beast struck again. Its jaws snapped inches from his face. Daniel rolled, the shard cutting across its eye. The creature shrieked, thrashing wildly. The crowd above shouted. Guards leaned forward. Nobles hissed in anger or surprise. Daniel's chest burned, his arms ached, but he refused to stop. He dodged, stabbed again, and finally jammed the shard deep into the creature's throat. The beast let out a final screech and collapsed. The pit went silent. Daniel stood trembling, covered in blood and sand. His chest rose and fell like a hammer. On the balcony, Vera's expression shifted. Just for a second, her eyes softened, but when she spoke, her voice was hard as ever. The human survives the trial of beasts. This time, no noble dared speak. The third trial came without warning. Daniel was led into a quiet chamber with no light, no sound, only darkness. He could not even see his own hands. Then a whisper came, not from the walls, but from inside his mind. "Do you trust her?" the voice asked. It sounded like his own thoughts, but twisted. "Do you trust the princess who threatened you? Who forced you into this cage?" Daniel froze. His breath quickened. Was this another illusion? Or something real? The whisper grew louder. "She is using you. You are nothing but a shield for her throne. Refuse her. Deny her. Break the bond." Daniel's chest pounded. He wanted to scream yes. Yes, he hated her. Yes, she was his enemy. But then he remembered her secret, the look in her eyes when she admitted she wanted him to live. He whispered back, "I don't trust her, but I believe her." The chamber of darkness shattered. Light returned, and Daniel stood once more before the guards. Princess Vera's golden eyes locked with his. For the first time, something like respect flickered in them. "The human has passed the first stage of trials," she declared. Her voice carried across the hall. "He is worthy, for now." The nobles murmured in disbelief, but Daniel barely heard them. His body trembled, his mind burned, yet deep inside, a new fire had started. For the first time since this nightmare began, he thought, maybe I can survive this. The palace looked calm from the outside, its towers shining like blades against the stars. But inside, behind the walls, whispers of anger and fear spread like fire. Daniel had survived the first stage of the trials. To him, it felt like a small victory, but to many of the alien nobles, it felt like an insult. A human, a weak outsider, had not only lived, but earned the princess's approval. That night, while Daniel rested in his chamber, the shadows of the empire moved. In the high council hall, nobles gathered around a long table carved from black stone. Their glowing eyes burned with rage. "This cannot continue." Lord Kale spat, his sharp teeth bared. "Every step the human takes dishonors us. He pollutes our sacred trials." Another noble hissed, her voice low. "The princess protects him. If we move against him openly, she will strike us down." Kale's eyes narrowed. "Then we move in the dark, let the trials kill him, or let us make sure he never leaves them alive." The council murmured in agreement. The decision was made. Daniel woke to a strange sound that night, a faint scrape, metal on stone, his body tensed. He was learning to listen in this place. Paranoia was survival. Slowly, he rose from his bed. The room was dark, lit only by a faint glow from the wall patterns. He turned, searching. Then he saw it. Movement in the corner, a shadow detached itself from the wall, tall and silent, blades glinting in its hands. An assassin. Daniel's heart leapt. He had no weapon, no armor, only instinct. The assassin rushed forward, faster than his eyes could follow. Daniel threw himself aside, the blade cutting across his arm. Burning like fire, he stumbled, grabbed a chair, and swung it desperately. The chair shattered. The assassin barely slowed. Its mask gleamed, its eyes empty. Daniel backed toward the wall, blood dripping from his arm. His breath was fast. He knew he was seconds from death. Then the door slammed open. Golden light flooded the room. Enough! Princess Vera stepped inside, her voice thunderous, her eyes blazed with fury. The assassin froze. The guards stormed in behind her, weapons drawn, but before they could strike, the shadow leapt, vanishing through the window in a storm of glass and sparks. Silence fell. Daniel leaned against the wall, clutching his bleeding arm. His chest heaved. He stared at Vera, stunned. They tried to kill me. Her face was cold, but her voice carried steel. Not they, human, my people, my own council. Daniel's stomach dropped. Your council wants me dead? Vera stepped closer, her gaze sharp. Do not be foolish, Daniel. Of course they want you dead. You are a threat to everything they believe. If you survive the trials, if you stand beside me, the old order will break. Daniel shook his head. But I don't want your throne. I don't even want to be here. Her eyes narrowed. And yet you are here. And whether you want it or not, your survival changes everything. For a moment, her tone softened. You must understand, if they cannot kill you in the trials, they will try again in the shadows. You are no longer just fighting for Earth. You are fighting to live through every night. Daniel's breath caught. The trials were supposed to be the danger, but now he realized the truth. The real battle was everywhere, in every corner of the palace, in every glance, in every whisper. The next day, the whispers grew louder. Servants avoided his eyes. Guards looked at him with contempt, and whenever Daniel passed the nobles in the halls, he could hear their voices. The human will not last long. He will die before the bond is complete. The crown should never belong to an outsider. But Daniel also saw something else. Not everyone looked at him with hatred. Some looked with curiosity, even hope. Perhaps not all the empire agreed with the council. Perhaps some wanted change. That night, as Daniel sat in his chamber, Vera came to him again. Her golden eyes glowed in the dim light. She studied him quietly before speaking. You fought well, she said, nodding at the bandage on his arm. You lived. That is more than most would have managed. Daniel gave a bitter laugh. Barely. If you hadn't arrived, I'd be dead. Her lips curved, not into a cruel smile this time, but into something strange, almost thoughtful. You did not give up, that matters. He frowned. Why are you telling me this? Yesterday you wanted me to bleed. Today you're saving me. Her gaze lingered on him, unreadable. Then she whispered, because you are beginning to see the truth. Daniel, this empire is not only dangerous to you, it is dangerous to me. Daniel stared. Her words sank into him, heavy and sharp. The princess, his captor, his enemy, his judge, was also a prisoner of the shadows. And now, the enemies who hunted him hunted her as well. For the first time, Daniel realized survival was no longer just about passing the trials. It was about surviving a war of knives hidden in the dark. And in that war, he was no longer alone. The Zareth capital was never silent. But on the day of the royal wedding, the noise of the city turned into thunder. Ships filled the skies, thousands of glowing engines burning trails across the black. Crowds filled the crystal streets, their voices rising in chants that echoed through every tower. The wedding of Princess Vera was not only an event. It was history. Every noble, every general, every rival faction gathered. And at the center of it all stood Daniel Hayes, the outsider, the human. He wore ceremonial armor crafted from black metal that shimmered like liquid glass. It felt heavy, too heavy, but nothing weighed more than the stares of the empire's people. Some were curious, some were furious. Many wished he would not survive the day. From the high balcony, Princess Vera appeared. Her golden eyes gleamed. Her crown glowed with faint light. When she raised her hand, the crowd fell silent at once. Today, her voice rang across the city. Tradition bends but does not break. A bond will be forged, stronger than war, uniting what was once divided. Her words were meant for the empire, but Daniel heard the edge beneath them. He realized this was not only a marriage, it was a declaration of power, her power. Inside the great hall, the ceremony began. The walls pulsed with energy, Each symbol carved into the stone glowed brighter. Ancient chants filled the air. Daniel and Vera stood at the center, locked in ritual, their hands bound with a ribbon of living light that tightened like fire around their wrists. The High Seer spoke in a booming voice. The bond begins, two souls joined by choice or by blood. They must endure together or perish together. Daniel's chest tightened. He wanted to scream that this was madness. But when he looked at Vera, he saw her face calm, steady, her eyes, though sharp, held something else, resolve. For a heartbeat, Daniel believed she wanted him alive. But the shadows moved again. As the final words of the ceremony were spoken, the hall shook. A thunderous crack split the air. The ceiling exploded in fire and stone. Nobles screamed. Guards raised weapons. Saboteurs dropped from above, their armor black, their eyes burning red. Blades of plasma glowed in their hands. "Kill the human," they roared. Chaos erupted. The crowd scattered. The guards clashed with assassins. Sparks flew. Blood spilled. The great hall turned into a battlefield. Daniel was thrown to the ground. The ribbon of light around his wrist burned, binding him still to the princess. He pulled, but it would not break. The assassins rushed toward them. Vera drew a blade from her side, its edge singing with energy. With her free hand, she dragged Daniel to his feet. "Fight!" she shouted. Daniel's heart hammered. He had no weapon, until he spotted a fallen guard nearby. He snatched the spear and raised it just in time to block a strike that would have cut him in two. The clash rattled through his bones. The assassin hissed and pressed harder. Daniel stumbled, sparks flying, but then he shoved forward, jamming the spear into the attacker's chest. The assassin fell. Another came. Daniel swung wildly, barely keeping them back. Every move was survival, not skill. Beside him, Vera fought like fire itself. Her blade cut down enemies with fluid, deadly grace. The ribbon bound them, forcing them to move together, step by step, strike by strike. And strangely, it worked. His clumsy strength and her perfect precision balanced. They fought as one. Above, the nobles shouted in panic. Some fled, some watched with burning eyes. Lord Kale stood at the edge of the chaos, his lips curved in satisfaction. His plan was unfolding. But when he saw Daniel still standing, still fighting beside the princess, his smile faltered. At last, the final assassin fell. His body hit the ground with a heavy thud. Silence spread across the hall, broken only by the crackle of burning debris. Daniel stood panting, blood dripping down his arm, his spear broken in half. Vera's blade still glowing, their wrists still bound, their bodies side by side. The crowd stared in disbelief. The High Seer's voice trembled as he spoke again. "The bond is sealed. They have faced blood and shadow together. Their union cannot be denied." The nobles hissed, some in rage, some in awe, but none could argue. Daniel had survived not only the trials, but the assassination meant to erase him. Vera raised their joined hands high. Her voice thundered. "Let the Empire see. The bond is forged, stronger than betrayal, stronger than fear. This human stands as consort to the crown." The hall erupted, not in cheers, but in divided shouts, half in fury, half in reluctant acceptance. Daniel's chest burned. He barely understood what had just happened, but he knew one thing. There was no going back. The wedding had shaken the stars, but it had also awakened enemies darker than assassins. And somewhere, in the silence that followed, Daniel felt it. Eyes watching from beyond the Empire, something older, something patient, waiting for the bond to break. The wedding hall was quiet at last. Smoke curled from broken pillars. Shards of crystal still glowed faintly on the floor. Blood stained the stone, and the corpses of assassins lay in silence. Daniel stood, shoulders heavy, breath ragged, his hands still bound to Vera's by the ribbon of light. His arm ached from battle, but his mind spun faster than his body could recover. He looked at her, at the alien princess who hours ago had been his enemy. She was bloodied, her blade still glowing, but her eyes were steady. Golden fire burned within them. sharp and proud. "We lived," Daniel whispered, half in disbelief. "Yes," Vera said, her voice calm, "and that is why they fear us more now than ever before." The High Seer stepped forward, his robes torn. His voice echoed through the ruined chamber. "The bond is sealed, the trials are past, the union is law. No blade or word can undo it now." The nobles muttered. Some glared at Daniel with hatred. Others looked away, but none could deny the truth. The human had survived. The princess had accepted him. Daniel felt the weight of their stares like a storm pressing against his skin. He had never wanted a crown, never wanted to stand in a hall of enemies. And yet here he was, forever tied to the Empire's throne. Vera raised her voice, cutting through the whispers. "Let the Empire hear me. This bond is not weakness. It is strength from this day. The blood of Zareth and the spirit of Earth walk as one." Her words carried across the city, across the fleets in orbit, even beyond, across channels that reached distant stars. But far away, others were listening. That night, the city still roared with voices, some in celebration, others in fury. Daniel sat in his new chamber, staring out at the alien skyline. Towers of crystal rose high into the dark, glowing with rivers of light. He felt smaller than ever, a single man caught in the tides of history. The door opened. Vera entered. Her armor was gone, replaced with ceremonial robes. Her face was calm, but her eyes betrayed the same exhaustion he felt. "You fought well," she said, sitting across from him. "Better than I expected." Daniel let out a bitter laugh. "I almost died 100 times today. That's your idea of fighting well?" Her lips curved faintly, not cruel, not mocking, but almost amused. "Yes," she said, "because you lived." Silence lingered between them. Finally, Daniel asked, "Why me? Out of everyone, why bind yourself to me?" Vera's gaze hardened, but not in anger. "Because you are not one of them. You do not play their games. You do not bow to their poison words. You survived not by knowing our ways, but by refusing to break to them." She leaned closer, her golden eyes sharp. "And because I saw the truth in you. You did not choose me for power. You chose because you wanted to save your people. That is strength my empire has forgotten." Daniel swallowed hard. He wanted to deny it, but deep inside, he knew she was right. "Still," he whispered, "I don't know if I can be what you need." Her voice softened, rare and almost fragile. "Neither do I, but now, neither of us is alone." Outside the palace, in the void of space, fleets still gathered, but not all were Zareth ships. On the edge of the galaxy, other empires listened, watched, waited. Some saw opportunity, others saw threat, and in the dark between stars, something older than them all stirred awake. The bond of human and princess had changed the balance, and shadows beyond the empire were now moving. Days later, Daniel stood beside Vera on the grand balcony, looking down at the sea of people below. The chants of the crowd rose like thunder. Some shouted his name, others spat curses, but one thing was clear. The galaxy would never ignore him again. He thought of Earth, so small and far away. He thought of his family, who would never imagine where he now stood. And he thought of the choice he had made, blood or marriage. It still felt impossible, unreal. But when he looked at Vera, standing tall, unyielding, her hand brushing lightly against his, he knew one truth. He was human, yes, but he was no longer just human. He was bound to an empire, bound to a princess, bound to a fate larger than anything he had ever dreamed. And for the first time, though fear still coiled in his chest, he whispered to himself, "I am not alone." The stars above burned brighter, as if listening, as if waiting for what would come next. Because this was not the end, it was only the beginning.